Welcome to the AV Huddle, the place for AV professionals to get the latest news, updates and stories from the leading commercial manufacturers and suppliers. Hear from end users while we dive into new technology, business strategy and innovative ways AV is shaping the sector. Let's jump into the Huddle.
Hi everyone, and good morning or afternoon, depending on where you're listening from, and welcome to another episode of the AV Huddle. And today we've got our co-host Chris. I'll let Chris do a quick intro, and then I'll then introduce you to our our guest today, Tom from NowSignage. So my name is Mitesh Palmer. I'm the marketing manager at AVM Solutions. Chris, do you want to give a quick intro?
Yep. Hi, I'm Chris Marshall, a digital media technician at AVM Solutions. I deal with digital signage deployments and management following installations.
Thank you, Chris. And I'd like to now introduce you to Tom. So Tom works at NowSignage, and he's actually got about over 10 years of experience in digital space. And he's been with the company for about 2.5 years now, and he works as a commercial director. Now, before I spoil anything about what we're going to talk about today, I'd like Tom to kind of fill in any blanks that I might have missed and let us know, what do you do at NowSignage and what does the company actually do? And maybe you could tell us a little bit about, you mentioned about you guys have been disruptive in the industry. So maybe we can start with that as you give us the intro. So over to you, Tom.
Yeah, thanks very much. And thanks for having me on, guys. Yeah, so I'm the commercial director for NowSignage. We're a cloud-based digital signage CMS, of which there are many out there in the market. I'm sure you're well aware. We've had some tremendous growth over the last few years by just doing things a little bit differently, or how I think they should be done, which is easy to buy, easy to use, cost effective, big margins, all that sort of cool stuff. So everything you'd expect, and a lot of things that you wouldn't. So my main role, I liaise and develop partnerships globally with our manufacturers. We're the world's only truly agnostic CMS. We'll work on any hardware, so it's important that we're partnered with just about everybody. So most of my day is filled with liaison with those partners and forming close relationships with those partners.
So you guys offer a digital solution then for the CMS system. Mm-hmm. So what is it that kind of, from your typical customer scenario, could you give us an example, how somebody would be using this, and why you guys, so I'm a customer, I've got my screens and I want to display my content, what is it that you guys are offering that makes me think actually that is it?
Okay, so a very typical use case would be retail. So let's take a large high street retailer with several hundred stores around the world. They can control all of those screens through one central CMS, i.e. NowSignage. So somebody in the marketing team in Sri Lanka or wherever they are in the world could control the screens in Manchester, for example. What it allows those in a retail context to do is you can perhaps get, real-time information to the shop floor with a click of a mouse. So it's raining here today where I am. If I was in a store in this particular part of the world, I could change the screens to knock £5 off umbrellas or raincoats or whatever. So you can start to sort of target your advertising at your customers based on, on real time.
Yeah.
That's retail. Obviously, there are dozens and dozens of different use cases that we've developed over the years. COVID-19's given us a whole heap more of new cases that we would never have even imagined before March of this year. But that's a typical way to probably articulate what we offer.
So it's quite dynamic, proactive, and kind of quick, to change, and I guess that opens up more doors. Interesting you mentioned COVID there. It'd be good to understand, how our business is adapting to signage, especially, you mentioned COVID, and B, on the back end of that, how is your company, adapting to COVID as well?
Well, we've adapted very quickly. We've probably taken a different tack to quite a lot of our competitors out there. When obviously this hit, it was a bit of a hand grenade went off for everybody, I think, and there was an element of just staring at each other in mild panic for a week or two, and considering letting people go and where do we take the business from here. We for a long time had a sort of monthly rolling contract model, which for years was amazing for our customers. It gave them the ability to turn the product on and off whenever they wanted. Now, the downside to that, obviously, was when they wanted to turn it off, when lockdown came in, it meant we were under some real pressure as a business. So we took a view very early on, actually, that we weren't going to do what others were doing and let people go and stop developing and stop pushing the product. We actually invested. So we invested very heavily in new solutions that we thought would help our end users and our reseller partners, rebuild confidence, particularly in the retail space. So we developed, a people count solution. We developed a hand sanitizer monitoring solution. We've got our Microsoft Power BI integration, which is helping, get information to home workers and those businesses that are classed as essential. Getting information to people has never been more important. It's probably never been actually more difficult because, not everybody now is under one roof as they were, perhaps this time last year. So we've developed, lots of different ways to help those businesses get through this. And hopefully when we come out the other end, we'll all be in a better position. We'll see.
It's interesting you mentioned the couple of scenarios there, like people counting and hand sanitation. Mm-hmm. Could you give a bit more elaboration in kind of how that works, or what is it basically? And if you were to dig deeper.
Yeah, so there are people counting sensors on the market that have been out there a long time. Actually, it's very sort of long-standing, robust, proven tech, but it's essentially just a hardware solution. So it's a sensor that sits above a door and essentially counts shadows in and out, ones and zeros. What we've done is an integration with that particular sensor, and we turn those ones and zeros into a nice visual representation of the capacity within your store. So as you walk in to your convenience store, wherever it may be, there'll be a big digital screen next to the door, perhaps on a totem. And on the left-hand side, you can have traditional digital signage messaging, so your advertising and all that sort of stuff. And on the right-hand side, you can have like a traffic light system, which tells you to come in, to wait a few moments, or to stop, the store is full. The real value to the user in this scenario, though, isn't necessarily in managing capacity. It's actually the data behind it. So there's lots of advanced reporting features in the back end there that we hope will future-proof the solution, because, God forbid, we hope we're not going to be in this capacity management situation forever. Yeah. But what we want is for these sensors to remain in situ and have value. So, I don't know a retailer anywhere who doesn't want to know who's in my store, when were they there, who are these people, and how can we target them. So that's the real value, actually, over and above just the capacity management.
So basically, you're not just displaying data, you're actually taking that data in the back end and turning that kind of raw data, let's call it, back into information and knowledge, and doing something with it instead of just displaying it, is what you're saying. Correct.
And then you can extrapolate reports off the back of that then. So you might say, well, our peak times from this data we have are 3 till 4 p.m. on a Friday, but yet we're not showing any particular products or advertising at that time of day. So, as with a lot of these things with digital signage, we're looking to make it a little bit more interactive with what's actually going on around the screens, rather than the screens just being forward facing, dumb screens, really. So that's where the real value is, I think, in all of these solutions, not just with ours. What the industry's been brilliant, actually, the way it's adapted and the way everyone's, I guess through sheer necessity, but through necessity comes innovation a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And it's been good to see, a lot of businesses like us who've chosen to really push innovation and push their tech rather than just allow it to sit and go stagnant.
Yeah.
So hopefully, I'm hoping what we'll see at the end of all this is a stronger industry with more diversity and more value for the users, because that's what it's all about at the end of the day.
Yeah, I was going to say, on the topic of innovation, then, what is new from kind of NowSignage, and what have you guys been innovating on? Is there something that we can share with the users?
Yeah, I mean, I guess one of the biggest pieces of innovation that we've come up with in the last year or so. Now, this was not COVID-19 related at all, but is actually proven to be a very valuable piece of tech during COVID-19, and that's our Microsoft Power BI integration. I don't know how much you know of Microsoft Power BI, but it's essentially the world's biggest business analytics tool, and it allows you to pull in thousands of different types of data, push them onto reports. Now, the biggest problem with it from a digital signage point of view is you pay all this money for this amazing product, but you're unable to publish those reports onto digital signage screens without making them publicly available. So, you know, and an example we had in the States recently, a business, believe it or not, was spending $8 million a year on Microsoft Power BI, and yet they're unable to show their call stats, their turnover stats to their sales teams, because if they do, it's indexed on Google. So we did a direct integration with Microsoft Azure. Took us a long time, took us 3 or 4 months of solid development with our CTO on it. And now what we're able to do is see real-time data, real-time call stats, turnover stats, whatever you might want onto those screens, completely secure and completely private for the first time. So that's been a huge thing for us.
Sorry, Tom, carry on.
No, after you go.
No, I was trying to picture where would that be used in terms of, you know, what markets or use cases where would that kind of application be used for?
Yeah, well, again, it surprised us because when we first went into Power BI, it came about an international recruitment company, Robert Walters, a couple of 100 sites around the world. They wanted to display like things. And that was, I'll be honest, when we went into this, we thought that was going to be the main use for it. But we've now got, you know, examples in construction where they're displaying health and safety information. We've got factories using it on the shop floor. We've got factories using it in things like public spaces. We've got home workers using it. We've got one business who are using it to display dispatch information. So that when they're posting out products and stuff, they can show it on screens to their operatives in the warehouses and stuff and make sure that things are being dispatched and they're being delivered on time. And, you know, especially when you're dealing with that sort of just-in-time environment. So, you know, as I said before, there's this integration that we've done makes that a lot easier for our users, basically.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I guess, generally speaking, in terms of, you know, markets and sectors that your products are being used, I know it's quite varied, but with everything going on, you know, what would you suggest if somebody's listening, and if there's an integrator out there listening to this, you know, what would you suggest to them? You know what, these are the growing markets where they can, you know, see this product solving particular challenges, you know, where they can focus their efforts. You know, what would you say to them? Yeah,
well, we're all looking to just provide a solution to a particular problem at the moment, and essential businesses is where the only growth is, quite frankly, at the moment. You know, historically, we were probably doing 60% of all of our opportunities were sat in the retail world. Now, obviously, since the high streets closed down, that's probably been flipped completely on its head, and we're now doing a lot more NHS, education, manufacturing, food retail, distribution, logistics, all those sorts of, you know, the hub of the economy, if you like, during a lockdown is where the opportunities lie, particularly around COVID-19, lots of confined spaces, particularly in a manufacturing capacity. We've actually got our capacity management solution on the door of a changing room in a factory, because that's where, you know, there was a case in a biscuit factory just last week in the UK somewhere where, you know, everyone who was using a particular changing room came down with COVID-19 because they're these confined spaces, they're out of sight, out of mind, and it's easy to forget.
Yeah.
But, you know, that sort of capacity needs managing as well. So
yeah,
we're being surprised every day, to be honest, with these different use cases. What I would say is we've got quite a few really interesting case studies in PDF format, and if anyone does want to see any of them, we'll ping them over to you, and you can get in touch with us, no problem.
That's brilliant. It's good to know. So, you know, I remember we were talking earlier, and you mentioned, you know, how you guys are being really disruptive. I'm quite keen, you know, I think it's great to see businesses being disruptive and pushing the boundaries and, you know, being innovative. I don't know if there's anything I've missed or anything, you know, you want to add in terms of, you know, something else that you've been disruptive in terms of the way you're offering the solutions, the way you structure the solutions, or maybe even support. You know, is there anything else that I don't know you want to talk about? Because I'm quite keen
I mean, to some of the things we do are often labeled disruptive by others within the industry, but for me and for my colleagues at NowSignage, it's just how it should be done. You know, when we looked at digital signage CMSs, you know, a few years ago when I came on with the business, you know, I noticed that they were often hard to use, difficult to buy, often static and commoditized in nature and hard to make bespoke. There's no custom integrations. If you want to add social media, there's extra cost. If you want to add IPTV, there's extra cost. If you want to add proof of play, there's extra cost. So we just said we want true software as a service. You pay a fixed fee every month and everything's included. So we don't, and we won't ever charge anything extra for any features that we bring to market. And, you know, we've only got to look since March of the new features we have brought to market, that if you bought our product in March, it's now an infinitely better product than if you bought it, you know, well, if you bought it today, it's infinitely better than it was even in March. So, you know, it's just the way for me, it should be the analogy I always use is your smartphone. You know, I've had this 12 months. It's a better phone now than when I bought it because it's had about 4 updates. But it costs me the same every month. Yeah. So that's essentially what we look to do. And the ease of use is the big one. You know, anyone can use it in 20 minutes. And I know this is not a sales pitch, but we're trying to make this, you know, what's of use to the users in the market there. Particularly when you've got home workers and you're not on top of them to offer intense training. What you want is a product you can give them, and in 20 minutes they're away. So that's a kind of a commitment we have. You know, anyone can switch in 20 minutes basically.
Oh, well, okay. Yeah, no, I think, to be honest, you know, when they talk about any new product that's being invented, it's either one of the biggest benefits is saving time, and that kind of goes hand in hand with ease of use. So if you look at most products, you can always find something that might take longer or it's cheaper or something. But I think if you've got a product that makes life easy for somebody, that saves time, saves energy, saves training, because there's less things to go wrong ultimately.
Yeah, totally.
There's a huge benefit in it.
The biggest benefit of having an easy to use product for me is it eliminates the fear of change. So when we came into this space a few years ago, a lot of our competitors it'd be a full day's training. And if then that person left the business, you'd have to train someone else, you know? So they're afraid to move suppliers a lot of the time because that fear of change, you become what I call institutionalized. You know, it's like, what's he called? Brooks out of Shawshank Redemption or whatever. You know, you just become wrapped up in this big institution and this big enterprise level product. But let's cut to the chase, guys. We put pictures on screens, right? That's it. Okay. And it should be a case of getting your picture, putting it on a screen. Everything else is just noise, and often unnecessary noise. So let's cut through it and just make it as easy to bloody use as possible. And that's what we tried to do.
Yeah, no, I think that makes great sense. And I guess, you know, that kind of leads into the next question. I know you probably might not be able to talk too much about it because it might be R&D work you've got going on and you don't want anybody to copy it. But, you know, where do you see the future, you know, generally of, you know, CMS systems? You know, if you think about the next few months, maybe 6 months, even a couple of years ahead, you know, where do you see things changing?
Well, we've got a very detailed and very long development roadmap, which if we put our 2 best developers on it, will probably take us over a year of them working 24 hours a day to get through. I think, particularly for us, we're getting more and more requests for bespoke features. So all those things we've just talked about before are not being a commoditized product. So there are also a lot of what you might call vertical specialists in our space. You'll have CMS that are good for retail, and you'll have CMSs that are good for corporate, and you'll have CMS that are good for education and so on. We genuinely want to be a Microsoft, if you like, in the space and be all things to all men, whereby no matter what industry you're in, no matter whether you're a one screen business, you've got one screen in perhaps a waiting room in a dentist, or whether you're a global brand like Subway or whatever it might be, we've got thousands and thousands of screens. We want that product to work just as well for the one screen as the enterprise business. So that's where we're looking to go. All features that you'd expect, suitable for all vertical markets and for all sizes of business. It's a big ask, but we're well on target to do it. And we've got the roadmap, we've got the investment, and we've got the people to do it. So that's the plan. Cool.
And is there anything, any particular feature or development you can, I don't know, talk about that's up and coming, or is there anything that anybody should be keeping an eye out for if they're in a particular sector that you can say, actually, you know what, if you come across this, then, you know, we've got it coming soon?
Well, one thing that's under improvement at the moment is our for digital out of home. That's been a space that we've skirted the edges of a little over recent years, but we're really now getting involved in. Our sort of reporting suite off the back of things like proof of play is a big area for us at the moment. Like all the features we got, it's free of charge, included with your license. And we're hoping to get more into that sort of digital out of home market, because where the economy is and where the market is and lockdown and so on, I think that's probably an area, you know, that is doing okay. So that's something we're looking at. We've got our new multi-zone feature at the moment as well, so where you can obviously display, if you wanted, you could put 4K videos on one screen. It'd give you a right headache. You wouldn't do that, but you know, in theory, the technology is there to do that. And then within those zones, you can display all the other. You could have our Microsoft BI feature, our capacity management feature, our weather apps feature, our, you know, or any different feature within that. So it's always changing. It's always changing, and we genuinely don't dictate that change either. You know, it comes to us. You know, we get asked. The market dictates to us what they want our product to look like. And that roadmap we've got, the order of it is based purely upon when the phone rings and someone asks for a feature that's on the roadmap, and we just push it up the tree. So, you know, anyone who's watching this, if there's a feature you've always wanted from a CMS, and you can't, just ask us. You know, we very, very rarely say no to a piece of, if it's going to benefit, you know, the smartphone analogy again, if everyone who's got our software, you know, if it's going to benefit them, we'll just build it.
Yeah, I think that's the best approach, you know, helping customers and looking at their kind of needs and wants and then developing towards that. I think that's the best way of doing it. Chris, I don't know if you want to, you know, if you've got anything you want to ask to Tom, or anything you want to discuss, because I know you've got quite a lot of experience from, I guess, the digital signage space in terms of using it and setting up, etc. I don't know if anything comes to your mind.
This is where Chris tells me everything I've just said about the market's a load of nonsense now. He's probably a lot closer to it than I am.
No, I trust your judgment there. No, I was just going to ask, obviously you're very open in terms of considering new third-party integrations that you get requested. But have you sort of considered opening up NowSignage and like giving people access to the APIs for custom, in terms of, you know, companies that want to create their own sort of content in-house, you know, their own sort of cards that you might refer to them as?
That's something we already do. So we've got an open API, so we can essentially send and receive data from any source. So our half of the bridge is built, and all it requires generally is a bit of work for the other half, and we can get our system to talk to just about anyone. So we've got a couple of partners actually in the content creation world, which I think is what you're getting at there, where you can create your content over here on the third-party software, and then we just have a little widget in their software that says migrate to NowSignage, and with a click of a mouse, it can pull straight through to your content library in NowSignage. So those integrations are already in place with specific with specific partners. Opening that up to more partners is as easy as saying, here's our API, you do the work on your side and we can talk. So the short answer is yes, we can definitely do that, yeah.
Okay, great.
Is that something you're seeing more of in the market, Chris, the need for that sort of dynamic content creation and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, we're agnostic as well. We utilize a number of different CMS platforms, including your own, of course. We are often requested to, you know, create custom content for buildings. I know you offer sort of a bus and train timetable that's a built-in integration to your platform. We've developed one of our own in-house as well with one of our developers. And a recent example is a kiosk system, you know, for entering a building and accessing sort of wayfinding information that we've developed in-house. So it's just really about, you know, taking stock of the CMSs that allow and are open to, you know, custom development.
Yeah, I think we're going to see more and more of a need for that. If the world is adapting and changing, if we don't, we're going to quickly fall by the wayside if we just start saying, here's our product off the shelf, Mr. End User, take it or leave it. And every day I'm staggered that is still the attitude from a number of suppliers out there. They're not still innovating, and they're not still pushing the product, and they are literally just saying, here, take it or leave it, essentially. You're not a software as a service if you're doing that, in my opinion. You're a commoditized product, And we are very much software as a service, and that's the way we're going to continue to do it.
Yeah, I think it's good that you're open to collaboration and, you know, having people share content and put it through your system, because I think that is a way for growth. And in my head, the way I'm thinking is, if you look at, you know, the typical App Store or Google Play Store, you know, they've created their infrastructure there, but it's all everybody else who are helping to create the rest of the apps. You know, the big players have done the foundation, have created lots of, you know, the more common apps. You know, so Google and Apple have created most of the more common apps, but then everybody else can then create the niche apps. And I think that really lends itself well, because then, you know, if you've created the platform and the infrastructure and you've got the core apps there, if anybody wants something specific or niche, and somebody else can then develop that and plug it in through your system. And why not? It just means that your system becomes more powerful. And ultimately, it means for the customer, there's greater benefits, as you mentioned.
Yeah. I mean, it's not, I mean, yes, we've got a proprietary platform that we've developed, and, you know, it's built in-house out of Manchester, but it's open source in as much as the floor is the markets to tell us what they want. So, you know, again, it sounds obvious, but we just ask our customers every 30 days, what do you want? You know, how are you getting up? And the reason, you know, I've worked at businesses in the past, and I'll hold my hands up to this. You know, you don't like asking the customer because you don't like what you hear sometimes. But I think if you are going to be innovative and you're going to push, you know, what's possible with tech, you have to hear things you don't want to hear sometimes. You need to hear that it's difficult to use. You need to hear it's expensive. You need to hear that it's, you know, there are problems, you know, technical problems. And if you're not reaching out and asking, believe me, those customers are reaching out and asking someone else. So I guess it's open source through conversation. There's a new term. I think I've just invented a new term there.
No problem. And I think one of the other thing we not touched on yet, as you mentioned, is AV Awards. I don't know if you can tell us more about that, Tom, and your involvement in that.
I didn't want to brag about that, so it's the Power BI. We've actually had a couple of nominations actually this year's AV Awards, which is first time for us. So win or lose, it's just satisfying to get recognition from your peers in the industry for some of the things we've been doing. So our Power BI and our COVID-19 solutions have both been nominated. That's on the 20th of November, and we've got a series of webinars running actually in the run up to that around Microsoft Power BI. I know I'm not here specifically to talk about those things, but if anyone wants some information, just get in touch at sales@nowsignage.com, or you can just inquire through the website, and we'll happily send you an invite to a webinar that's right for you based on whether you're an end user or a distributor or whatever you might be.
Yeah, what we'll do as well is when the video goes live, we'll put it in the comments box below. So if anybody wants to reach out, they can do and learn more, I guess, you know, why not?
Cool. And they're not, I mean, there's a bit of webinar fatigue going on in the market at the moment, because I think it's not a lot else for a lot of businesses to be getting on with. So what we've aimed to do is to keep these pretty short and sweet and punchy. So, you know, it's a 10-minute intro, it's a 10-minute demo, and 10-minute questions, and then we're in and out basically. But it's quite a unique thing, so I'm hoping they're going to be quite well attended. So if you are interested, get in touch with us and we'll tee you up. No worries.
That sounds interesting. So Tom, I'm kind of running out of questions now. I don't know if there's anything else that, you know, you wish to share with anybody listening in terms of, you know, you wish to share information that's going to help them, anything up and coming, any wise words, you know, anything you want to share.
I don't think I've ever uttered a wise word, to be honest. But I don't know. What I'd say is, you know, there's just on a personal note, there's a lot of people in our space at the moment going through a lot of bad times. There's people losing their jobs, there's businesses going under. It's not nice, and you know, all things shall pass. And if there's anybody out there, particularly, you know, developers who may be looking at being let go or anything like that, who want to come and have a chat with us, you know, we might be able to help people out with some work. You know, that's just something I put out there. So Android developers in particular, we're looking for at the moment. So if anyone's watching this and their job's at risk, or, you know, they're looking for something, we can probably offer you something. But keep talking to us. We like to hear from people, whether they're customers or not. Get in touch, tell us what you want to see, you know, from a product like ours, and we'll come back to you and tell you we can do it or we can't. So just more dialogue, more conversation, and we'll all get through this nightmare together, I think.
Brilliant, brilliant. No, thank you very much, Tom, for coming on board. And I know you mentioned it earlier, but if you want to repeat it again, if anybody wants to get in touch or just learn more, where is the best place to go?
Yeah, sales@nowsignage.com or nowsignage.com. Contact us and send us through an inquiry, and we'll be on to you within the day.
Brilliant, brilliant. So thank you very much, Tom. And I think it's over and out from us guys here at AV Huddle. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you for listening to the AV Huddle. Don't forget to like, comment, follow, and subscribe to get the latest AV updates. AV Huddle, powered by AVM Solutions.